Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special baseball talk radio show. Even though there's not much going on right now in the world of
Not much.
baseball, but I'm joined by my very special co-host and cohort, Mr. Rich Baxter. Rich, it's kind of a slow time for the baseball world right now.
Very slow indeed. We just have a World Series coming up, the
Yeah.
118th World Series, and it was media today down there in Houston.
Yeah, but Houston and that other team playing, yeah, I don't know how exciting it's going to be at all, but, oh, come on. We know you're all excited and want to talk about it. Your Phillies have won the National League pennant with an amazing run, really, to get there and knocked off two division champions in the way, and got a little bit of help by having San Diego beat the Dodgers and pushing them out of the way. But they manhandled San Diego pretty well, and very impressive. They got hot at just the right time.
They did indeed, and I've been thinking that the whole series long. And what they've been doing is exactly what they need to do in the World Series. They need to get out there, preferably in Game 1, and set the tone out there in Houston. It's going to be probably their hardest series of all so far with the Houston Astros. They've ran the table against their opponents. They're 7-0 in the postseason. They're the favorites. And the Phillies are, though, very good. They're firing off on all cylinders, as you said, Gary, here in the postseason. I think they're on equal footing in the postseason and in this World Series, and I'm looking forward to a great World Series.
Well, I think what's gonna, you know, though I'm sorry, I do believe Houston is gonna win.
Oh,
Um,
we should have saved that for the end of the show.
oh, okay. The Phillies are gonna, they're an interesting team in that they are so red hot, and if they can keep the attitude of a devil may care attitude, it seems like they're playing. They're very loose. It seems like so far. I hope that the whole idea of going to the World Series doesn't tighten them up a little bit because they've been playing very loosey goosey. Harper has just been. He's earning his contract money as far as I'm concerned. This guy had some big hits. They've gotten a lot of big hits from different guys. They've gotten some solid pitching. Um, you never know what a team like this is. I tell you what, this is a dangerous team to play because you just don't know what to expect. We could get the Phillies against that played San Diego, or we could get the Phillies that played the whole season and just barely made it to the wild card. So uh, they're kind of a loose cannon, and but we'll have to see, and that's what's going to make it an interesting series, I think. If Houston can, as you say, Philadelphia has to go out there and make themselves known, if you will, in the first game, and give Houston a scare or whatever you want to call it. But if Houston really does the same, and we'll talk about Houston in a few minutes, but look, you can't not see what the Phillies have done. They've hit, they've made contact. They're not a good defensive team, but they've played well enough defensively to get this far. The pitching has been outstanding for the most part. Wheel has been unbelievable. Nola had some good and bad outings. Syndergaard had a decent outing for them. Suarez pitched well, so they've got some things in line for a short series, and I would imagine that their three key top pitchers would be Wheeler, Nola, and would it be Suarez? Is the third one?
Yeah, probably Suarez, though Noah Syndergaard, as you said, did well for him. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think he'd be a bad third choice. So we'll have to see what the Phillies go with. And, Suarez was okay, but yet he, showed a little bit of, return to a bad form, so to speak. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
And oddly enough, the bullpen has been good.
Yeah, the bullpen, due to selection of certain pitchers, have held up their end of the bargain, though, at times it wasn't good. They had to come back a few times in the NLCS. It wasn't like they had it locked up and steamrolled over their opponent with the Padres. They had to battle back offensively to win some of those ball games. So a lot of those wins were on the offense, where the relief corps did give up some runs. So I got to give credit where credit is due. It was the never-ending offense continuing to battle back, get the tie, go ahead. The Sunday game, for example, I was at the Saturday night game, which was one of the best games that I've ever been to as a fan. It was when they say electric, and you've been to postseason ball games, you can't describe how electric it was. The whole crowd was just like one that night.
Right.
And to get back to Sunday, the Phillies were down. It looked like the series were going back to San Diego, and it didn't look good for the Phillies. There were a couple outs from losing that game. JT Realmuto and Bryce Harper changed all of that, but it was them that changed it. If they couldn't get those hits and get those runs in, the Phillies would have been back to San Diego. We might have been talking about something else tonight, but that's all history now, and we know how it ended. As you said, Harper, they said he earned his money. Well, that's $338 million. That's a lot of money. Don't lose sight of that, when you say he earned the money. Okay, he won a ball game, and he's doing great for the Phillies. I'm still boggled at that contract. I just can't get it through my head that they would pay a player. And I think he's great, super, all that stuff. But, the Mike Trout contract, it's just, good for them. But you could have built a stadium for that money back in '08. I think the Phillies stadium cost $350 million to build. A whole stadium with the cement, everything that you see in that foundation. I think that's what the price of it was. So that's a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah, but when we say he earned his money, they're going to the World Series. This is all extra revenue for the team, and that's the parking, true. And the city, and the souvenirs. We were talking before. You went and bought some souvenirs, and people go and they buy.
You mean the $40 hat? Yeah,
there you go.
Right
because you don't. I had the instance back in 2015. The Mets hadn't been in a World Series since 2000. And you go and you just thought, oh, I want one of those. I want one of those. Now, fortunately for me, I'm a big guy, so it was tough getting T-shirts and stuff. So I don't go to the T-shirts. I gravitate to the hats because hats fit my head. So it's easy that way. But the hats are up there, but you start grabbing this stuff, and then you get up there, and they tell you, oh, it's $100. And the thing to do, folks, is don't take your credit card. Go with cash and bring whatever you're willing to spend, But you could see people were there and spending $200, $300, $400 because it could be a once in a lifetime thing, and
And it's easy to do. I overheard a younger girl, probably
Right.
25. She was in line for the custom jerseys. She says, "Oh, this is going to hurt. Like I've never spent this much money."
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just, you got to open the wallet because it doesn't happen every year most of the time with teams. And you got to live for the moment sometimes. And, you got to go for it.
Yeah, you do. You have to enjoy it while it's there because it's fleeting. It's fast. Look, it just seems like we had the wild card series, and you blink your eye, and the World Series is here. These series were very fast, but part of the reason is that Houston hasn't lost the game. Uh, the Phillies took care of St. Louis relatively quick. They took care of Atlanta in what, 6 games? Five? No, that was the best of five. So how many games did that go? 4? Or did that go 5?
Which series was that? I'm sorry. I was reading.
The Phillies and the Braves.
I believe it was 5.
5.
I believe it was.
And they took care of San Diego in 5.
Yeah.
So, the series have moved on, and they didn't have a lot of off days, which was beautiful. The first 2 series, no off days. That was nice. They had, they hit around a good formula. The only thing I wish they would do, and I understand why they can't do it, is that this series and the Yankee Astro series ended so quickly. It would have been nice if they would have played it 2 days or later. If they would have started the World Series on Wednesday or something like that, instead of waiting until Friday. But I understand because you had to have Game 6 and 7 if necessary, and
Right.
all of that nonsense.
And I was reading something, but I just wanted to review. The NLCS was 5 games. NLDS, of course, was 4 games.
Right.
And the wild card, of course, the Phillies won 2 games to none. So just to set the record straight there. But yeah, it was a great series, and I didn't watch Houston too much, but I just observed the scores, and they ran the table on all their opponents. So, as you said, it's going to be a tough series, and it's going to be an equally matched series. I think both teams sort of lose everything that they've come into the World Series with, and they're just on the same footing, especially with the rest, like you said. My good friend had told me, I wish the World Series would start on Wednesday. Well, as you said, they couldn't start on Wednesday because they had pre-planned. You have media people coming in from all over the world. You can't just okay, we'll start the World Series because there's no Game 7 in each championship series. You just can't do it.
Right. The only thing that I have, the problem I have is that you kind of you lose momentum in a way. It had, because the I know in the league championship series they did have an off day for travel, but they kept the off days to a minimum, which was nice, and it made it flow better, I think. And it would have been nice to have that flow continue into the World Series. But again, I understand why they have to do it. The thing that was confusing to me, and they have to do a better job somehow with this, and maybe it's just me, but trying to find a freaking game and what station it was on, between, especially in the early rounds, between ESPN, TBS, Fox Sports, FS1. I don't know who else was in there. They got to do something with that, because that's really confusing. They should keep it. Really, what they should try to do is keep it to really 2, maybe 3 stations, and one of them should be MLB Network. I mean, it's ridiculous that their own network and they're not even broadcasting the games. But I understand it's all money. They don't have to broadcast the game, and they're getting money for the rights to the games. But I got to tell you, for an old guy like me, it was a little confusing trying to figure. And then if the game ran over, it went from TBS to TNT. And I'm looking because I wanted to see that game. Excuse me, and not necessarily the one I was watching. So I will admit some confusion there.
Yeah. Obviously, it's tough. I mean, when you have different oddball networks, and I'll call them oddball networks, carrying the games because they're not prime time. Just like I'll quote my good friend again, Andy, a week or so ago, his favorite football team was on, I believe, Amazon Prime only.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And he couldn't watch the game. So he's like, oh, I can't watch the game because I had texted him, yeah, I'm watching a hockey game on ESPN Plus. He's like, oh, I don't get that.
Yeah.
And I can't find the football game. So I feel the pain of everyone out there, including myself. Don't give games to these goofy sites like they had down the road there. Apple TV was okay because they were like the only one that would let you watch the game for free if you knew how to get it. But these other stations, which I forget the names of right now, but you couldn't.
Peacock, I think.
Peacock.
They had a game.
I wanted to call them Paramount for some reason, but Peacock. You had to subscribe and pay them money to watch the game. I'm not doing that. I don't want their other stuff. But, and football has it right now. You can subscribe to NFL Plus, I believe it is, and for like $40 or $50 for the season, be able to watch on your mobile device now. You can't watch it on a television set. You can't even stream it to a television set. But, for $40, you want to watch your own favorite team, say it's East Jabip. You're going to be able to watch them on a mobile device, either a tablet,
and that's who is that? NFL Network?
NFL Plus, I believe they call it. And there's two offerings. One's really reasonable. It's like $29. Then I think the other one's maybe $79. But you can replay any game throughout the season. Say you want to watch game one and it's December. You want to replay a game. They have coaches play, with commentary and things like that. It's really good. I think MLB could learn a little bit, even though you can subscribe through MLB.TV, but down the road, I don't think they even carried some of those games that were on those private type networks. Yeah. But getting back to World Series, we know it's going to be on Fox, and they did a great job. I was talking to a few people at the games, at the playoff games about it. And everybody I talked to said that they agreed that Fox really did a great job on what they've seen so far. If that means anything.
Well, I think, I think everybody kind of pulled a little bit for the Phillies because they was such a, what do you want to call it, a Cinderella team, Cinderella story. They got in late. They just got into the wild card. Faced the division winner in the first round, beat them, and then had the mighty Atlanta Braves. And I don't think anybody had them getting by Atlanta. Atlanta coming off, they were hot closing the season, Atlanta. And, they beat everybody last year. So I think everybody thought that it was going to be Atlanta and the Dodgers in the championship series. And then lo and behold, Philadelphia comes up and beats Atlanta. And then San Diego, who really expected that? San Diego to beat the Dodgers. And, it was just kind of a shocking year all the way around. But, Houston was kind of predictable, though. I like the job Cleveland did a great job against the Yankees. They lost, I know, But boy, did they battle him and played well. And they've got a pretty good, decent young team there, so they're going to be a team to watch. But Houston is just, I mean, looking at the two teams, they both got good pitching, they both got good offense. Houston is better defensively, if I could be honest about the whole thing. And
Keith Hernandez didn't say that.
Well, and they're unrelenting offensively. They keep coming at you as well, and their pitching is just. It's going to be interesting. I give the edge to Houston in pitching. I give them the edge in defense, and offense could be a toss-up, but I think they may have a little bit more speed, Houston. So with that, I think they're playing for Dusty Baker. I think they want to get him that ring finally. So I really do see Houston winning it in probably 6 games. And I'm sorry about that, Rich, but
it's okay. I mean,
that's what I think. I really think they're the better team. I think the Phillies, not that they've run out of steam, but I just think this is going to be their toughest challenge, and I don't know if they can overcome it.
Okay, I'll live with that. I don't know. I share the opposite opinion. I think the Phillies, from watching this team, and I don't think this little couple-day layoff is going to affect them because they're going to jump right back on the bike and pedal it just as they were doing this whole playoff series. I think they're a team of destiny, and it sounds stupid. It sounds weird and wacky. But I just sat in the stadium a few times, and especially that Sunday game, it just seemed like it was destiny that the Phillies were going to get on base or win the game, actually, and get on base and score. When I saw JT Realmuto reach first base, and after the game there was an interview with him, and he said, yeah, Bryce Harper yelled over to me, let's go make history. Let's get this done. Like, JT sort of looked at Bryce Harper. Okay, I'm on first. You want to make history? Yeah. Go ahead. And he fouled off like 8 balls, and he put one in the stands. And the Phillies made it. I was just like, this is pre-planned.
There's something going on.
My co-host on Phillies Talk podcast, which I do as another show, of course, predicted a Phillies sweep. So, 4 games in a row, and he's a baseball guy. He's been watching
in the
baseball.
World Series.
He's predicting a sweep by the Phillies, a 4-game sweep. He says he had said Phillies in 6 earlier on in the podcast when we did our World Series preview, and I was like, "Oh, that's your pick, Phillies in 6." He says, "No." He says, "That's probably the way it'll go, but I'll tell you my pick." And he said, realistically, with a straight face, the Phillies are going to sweep. And he wasn't trying to be bravado or anything like that. And the Phillies have the potential to go out there and sweep. This team is a tornado. And I told him I'm going to Vegas and put $100 on that bet because it's going to pay $10,000 if it happens. I still got to look those odds up, by the way.
Yeah, look, that's the beauty of it. That's why they play the games, right? Because anything could happen. I just think looking at everything and the games that I saw, and I watched a lot of that Houston Yankee series because there's nothing I enjoy more than, of course, other than the Mets winning, is watching the Yankees get beaten badly and beaten into submission. And Houston was just relentless, and I think while the Phillies are a team of destiny, in a strange way, so is Houston, because they want to get that ring for Dusty Baker, and they want to get away from that scandal as well. So they have two reasons that they're going, and I would not be shocked at all if the Phillies. Well, I would be shocked if they swept. But if they won, I wouldn't be shocked. And if the Astros win, that would not shock me either one. But I really believe that the Astros are the better team at this stage. And I think their experience as well in the World Series, and Verlander has just been out of this world. I mean, he's been unpitching out of his butt. I mean, he's just been awesome. And, that's why I'm going with Houston.
And I thought you'd be rooting for the Phillies because of all the Mets connection. Well, I mean, that's why the Mets didn't sign these guys, because guys like you, Noah Syndergaard, Zach Wheeler,
No, I think I wanted to sign Wheeler.
Thank you very much for not. Now, you brought up Dusty Baker a few times in the last couple minutes. I'll bring him up now. I hope he loses again. He's a sad sack. He's a sad sack. I do not care for Dusty Baker too much. And I hope he loses again. And he made a comment today that I'm not even going to go to on this show. And I hope people read it in the press, at the press media notes. So stupid. And I'm not even going to address it. I'm not even going to bring it up because I'll get on a soapbox and get in trouble. But he sounded so stupid to bring up this stupid comment that he made. And I hope people that listen to this go back and Google it. And it's so goddamn stupid, I want to curse. It makes my blood boil.
Well,
that's all I'll say about it.
Google it if I don't know what I'm Googling.
All right. Well,
I did not know about this.
You'll probably read it, and I used to say in the papers tomorrow, but you'll see it online and see it's going to make headlines, and it's so stupid. I just saw it bringing it up about some World Series facts, and I just happened to glance and read it while you were making a comment, and I was like, this is so stupid. I hope he loses the World Series and gets run out of town because he lost the World Series. So that's just the way I feel about that. It's just, come on, stop already. And just, Google the article, read it, and then tell me what you think. Send me an email, because I'm not saying another word. Nobody's going to press.
Who wrote the
You can find it on CBS Sports. That's where I found it. It was today. It's at the media event. It was at the Houston Minute Maid Park. He was crying. And stop your crying. Come on. I just hate people to cry. But anyway, Rob Thompson's going to take him to school, and he's going to show him what a good baseball team can do in the World Series. And mark my words, the next time we talk, Gary, I'm going to say, see, I told you.
Well, I hope you do. But now I got to find this article.
So I will get back to my original point of the game, and we'll get off of that. Don't even want to talk about it. But yeah, the broadcast is going to be on Fox, and great broadcasters on it. They were very even. They, were good. The pregame show is good, and I happened to see on Saturday night. I went right up to the the pregame show there, and I was watching A-Rod and, his good suit and, Big Papi and Frank Thomas, and they all had their phones, they're out texting, during the commercial breaks, and just a professional bunch of guys. They did a great job. They had a big, nice stand out there in center field all set up for them, and I'm supposed to go to another World Series game or two this time around, so I'll be sure to get there earlier this time to watch, because I got there a little late, but still, it was fun to see that setup, and though I couldn't hear what they were saying and all, it was nice to observe it.
Yeah, you really can't. I'm still trying to find this song.
Don't wait till after the show because I don't
can't
even
now.
want to adjust it. I don't even want to address it. I don't even want to go into it. It's going to make me say things that maybe I'll regret, but I don't regret it at all, and I'm not even going to say it. But I just, for the sake of baseball and humanity, I'm going to call it. Dusty Baker loses this World Series again, and he continues his losing ways in the postseason. That's my goal for him.
Well, let me just say this about what he did say.
And I'm not saying a word for. I don't want to bring it up. Don't even say nothing, please. I don't want that to be a topic on this show because it just popped up an hour ago online. We'll just continue with our pleasant little podcast here because I don't want to get into it. But read it
Well, you
for
have
what
to
it is.
Well, let me just say this about that article. In an answer, you have to play the game.
Yeah, and that's all you should say.
If you don't play the game, you can't put people out there that can't play the game.
And that's all we should say.
And that's it. That's all we're going to say. But well, how about Texas Rangers have a new manager as well as the Miami Marlins. Do we want to talk a little bit about that or?
Yeah. Towards the end of the program, we'll bring that up. A couple World Series facts. This is the 118th World Series to be played, and believe it or not, the first World Series trophy goes back to only 1967. The Cardinals, who defeated the Red Sox in 7 games in the Fall Classic that year, and I'm reading off the MLB World Series media guide here, which I actually love. I just love the hoopla, and I even love the NFL when they come out with theirs and stuff. But the history of the game is so well documented in this thing. But I would have thought the trophy would have been older that they, get at the end of the World Series. But no, it started in 1967.
Yeah, and it's not the greatest looking thing in the world either. It's kind of dangerous with all those pointy flagpoles and stuff out of it. It's just a shame because, to me, the best presentation of a trophy and the best trophy, I think, in any sport is hockey. The Stanley Cup, and the way they treat that thing and how they handle. I mean, I know it's a lot of show. They put it in a case. They have the armed guards with them.
Uh-huh.
The guy takes it out with the gloves. It's just this solemn moment in the stadium when a team wins the Stanley Cup. Man, I don't care who wins. I just love watching the ceremony when they get the Stanley Cup because
Exactly.
the lights go low.
They take it around the ice.
Out. Yeah. And it is the greatest thing. And if you ever want to, I don't know the name of it. It was a book out about the history of the Stanley Cup. If you can find it, or find stories on the internet about this, that has had some of the wackiest. Not this particular. This is a replica of the original. Now the original got filled with all the names of the teams that won. So this is like, I believe, the second one. They continued on the original, and it's really the top of it is really the original trophy.
Yeah.
It's just a cup essentially.
Yeah.
And if you've ever seen it, have you ever seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it, touched it, and it's like, it was the Stanley Cup, and I wish I could find that pictures. I hope I didn't lose them somewhere. They had it out in Long Island a few years ago, and my daughter wanted to go. She's a Ranger fan. I'm an Islander fan.
Uh-huh.
And so we went. We stood online. What you do for your kids, and but it was so cool because I had never seen it up close. Because I'm not I never go wait online. I'm
Right,
not
right.
gonna, I don't. What the hell do I want to wait online for to see a trophy? But it
Yeah.
was worth it. It was enjoyable, and well, the reason we did it, but it was fun to see it. It was, I have to say, it really turned out to be very nice. But they're very quick, very organized. You hand them your phone or your camera,
Yep.
and you stand there. You're not supposed to touch it, but I touched it, and they take your picture, and then they escort you out of there. So it's all very well done. But getting back, the whole ceremony, baseball's got it's okay, when they hand them the trophy and the champagne's flying. That's their thing.
Yeah, they
I
need
don't.
to
They got to
follow
do something
through
with
with
the
it.
trophy though, and have a better, I don't. What do they call it now? What's it called? See, I don't even know what
What,
they
the
call.
commissioner's trophy? I think they
Yeah,
call it the
I don't know.
commissioner's trophy.
Isn't that the league? Oh, maybe it is. I don't know. They got to come up with a better name. They got to get somebody like like Musk or something, or Trump, to some rich guy. Donate this fancy ornate thing to them, and like the Stanley Cup, and call it the Trump Trophy or the Elon Musk Trophy or
Don't call it the
something.
Trump trophy,
Yeah,
but
maybe no. Yeah, maybe that's not a good idea.
but
But something, some rich guy like that.
not that I
And
would mind. But I'm sure
no,
half of
yeah,
our
yeah.
listeners would take umbrage with it. Sorry, folks, we're not going on the politics for you.
No. We're just talking about some rich guy that could donate a trophy,
Yep.
and instead of that.
Yeah, and
I
if you're
mean,
watching
it's
our
okay,
YouTube
but
version, I just put it up on the screen. This is out of the MLB media guide for the World Series. Yeah, it's
yeah,
called the Commissioner's Trophy, and yeah, it's designed each year, changes here and there a little bit depending who wins it, I believe. But you know, that's what they get. Yeah, it could be nicer, could be bigger, maybe. They could pass it around like an NHL. I like your idea, Gary. Make it
yeah.
5 feet tall, 4 feet
Yeah,
tall.
and run around the field with it or something like
Yeah.
that.
Hoist it up to the fans and, let them
Yeah,
see it.
yeah. I mean, even in football, I don't like the way they do it. They put the stand in the middle of the field. I guess that's nice because everybody gets to see it.
Yeah.
But even their trophy, they got, it's okay. It's a football on top, but it's long. So it's
Yep.
impressive.
Yep.
This is it. It's okay, but it's like thin.
It's average. It's 24 inches high. It's got
That's
a
it.
diameter. Yeah, it's got a diameter of 11
Oh,
inches.
yeah. That's tiny.
Master artisans from Tiffany and Company take more than 3 months to make it, and it's got 198.12 troy ounces of sterling silver that it's made with. So that's nice. But yeah, I like your idea. Expand it, make it 24 inches around, make it about 4 foot high, make it something that's meaty, something that you can see. I like that. Like that
I mean,
idea.
even soccer has the World Cup.
Yep.
Why don't we have the Casey Stengel Cup or
Or whatever. Yeah.
I don't know. I can't think of anybody offhand.
Yeah.
But you get my idea.
That's a great idea. It's the first time I've heard it.
And make it more and build a thing around it. I know it's tough because baseball's outdoors, and then the tradition is when they do give it to them, it's in the locker room, and there's all kinds of craziness going on. I get all of that, but could you imagine the locker room celebration if it was like a Stanley Cup where they're actually drinking out of it in the locker room?
Yeah. it
We
would
don't
be-
see that in hockey, but we see it, all the other fun stuff on the ice,
It would be
and
awesome.
I think I think that's something that they should consider getting a different trophy. But
Great idea. So MLB Network, if you're monitoring our show, what do you think?
Get a new trophy.
Now, on the subject of rings, I happen to love World Series rings, and I hope the Phillies get another one, mind you. But here, if you're watching on the screen on our YouTube version of the show or video version, you got the first World Series ring you're looking at here, 1922. The first ring ever awarded to series victors there with the big diamond in the middle. Nowadays, there's 150 diamonds on these rings.
And they're kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, they're way over the top. Bling Bling was made for that.
You can't even wear them now. I mean, the case is this big.
Yeah.
You can't. The rings are so big. I like, you go see some of these old guys that have won a ring and they wear the ring and they can wear it, and it's bigger than most. But now these things are just like, I think last year's Atlanta, it opened up into a ball field or something. It had some crazy thing in it. And
But yeah,
I don't know.
It's the history of the game. It's awesome. The World Series is. I keep getting text alerts from news stories, coming out of Houston now. And, during the series, during both the division and the National League Championship Series, the fans in the stands, we were commenting on, oh, man, next year that is not a hit because you can't shift next year. So we're already thinking about next year. And the pitcher's taking so long. Guy behind me in the last game said, "Oh, this guy takes forever to deliver the ball for the Padres." I said, "He does. It's like 40 seconds." I said, "Not next year."
Not next year. No, gonna have a pitch clock, but.
Yeah, everybody's astute baseball fans, especially the playoff people. These are real diehard fans that are paying a premium dollar. Just the prices of tickets, let alone StubHub and third market vendors to buy tickets. These people live for this playoff atmosphere, the electricity behind it, the history behind it. I left early. I'm going to tell you the truth. I left in the 8th inning of the National League Championship game on Saturday night that I was there because I wanted to get home. And if I wasn't leaving at almost 11 o'clock, I wouldn't have got home till 2 o'clock. And I was thinking of maybe running up to the Sunday game, which started at 2-something. So I was like, there's no way I'm sitting in the parking lot waiting for an hour and a half after the game. But the guy behind me he couldn't believe I was leaving. He's like, "You can't leave." And I'm like, I got to go, bro. And he was older than me. He was 15 years older than me. I shook his hand. I said, "Hey, it was a pleasure to meet you, watch the game with you, but I got to go." He didn't want me to go.
Yeah. You always got to use it. I got to go to work. I got work tomorrow, man. I got to be up at 5 o'clock. So
I mean, it was just like, a few of us left. Not many. Now, I want to say a trickle of people left. I'm talking less than 1% left that stadium. The rest were there. They were going to be there to the end, and that was that. But I even remember leaving early during the World Series game, but that's another story. Many years ago, it was. I thought myself a very LA of walking out a little early in the World Series game. I'll listen to it on the radio on the way over the bridge.
Okay. I'm not going to. I've left plenty of games early, not a playoff or a World Series. But.
Well, the traffic, I'm sure you could appreciate it. It's just
yes.
a literal parking lot for about an hour and a half. But, yeah, that's another story.
Well, it's tough on those night games. If it's a day game, it's a lot easier. And when I was a younger man in 1986 and we went to the playoff game, I would have hung myself probably if I had left because that was the game that Dykstra one in the bottom of the ninth or the 10th with a 2-run homer. So we would ninth it had to be. We would have been quite angered had we not stayed, and of
Well,
course we stayed for Game 7 of the World Series.
I do have to preface the Phillies were ahead on both of the games that I left on, so I didn't leave them in the lurch. Didn't
Yes,
leave them when they were down.
but if they're not ahead 12-0 and it's a slam dunk that they're gonna win, you can't leave.
Right. Especially on the championship game, I would never leave during that. It would have to be, and I've stayed
You'd have to stay. Yeah.
most of other games for various reasons that I won't get into on this podcast. But it just I wanted to get home, so
Yeah.
it was fine. I saw a great game. I had fun. I got what I paid for, so to speak. So I was more than happy.
That's why I wish I had an RV.
I know you've been wanting an RV for a few years.
Well, then
if I ever hit it big, I'm going to get you one.
You go
How's
to
that?
the game, okay. You go to the game and you stay until the end. And if the crowd's busy, you can't get out of the parking lot, you go take a nap in the back.
You stay in the RV. It's great.
Yeah, you stay in the RV, and then 2 in the morning, it's empty. You go home.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I'll read just a little bit more from the. This is from the pregame notes of the World Series, the workout day notes from today, as we're doing the podcast here on the 27th, Thursday. Of course, World Series starting up on Friday night, 8:03 p.m. The first pitch, right on through the whole series. 2 games in Houston, moves to Philadelphia on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and if necessary, Game 5 in Philly. And Game 6 and 7 goes back to Houston next Friday and Saturday. That would be November 4th and 5th if needed. So, but they had a great workout media event today in Houston. I'll just give you a rundown of their schedule here. Credential distribution began at 9 a.m., and they have to go to the will call windows, the press does, to grab their credentials. 10 a.m. the media entrance opens. 12 p.m. noon today, the Phillies worked out on the field. Aaron Nola was the first Philly in the interview room at 1:30. They interviewed Rob Thompson at 1:45. Everything's laid out very nicely. 2:35, the Astros Game 1 starting pitcher, whoever that is, and I didn't even hear yet. I guess it was Verlander, was interviewed. And then Astros manager Dusty Baker at 2:45. So, that gives you all the schedule and, the recent history of what both clubs have done. And they've both accomplished a lot. You could write a whole book on it. And that's another thing, Gary. I just wanted to get into this real quick. Whenever your team makes it to the World Series, you're guaranteed to have 4 or 5, a half dozen books being written.
Oh, yeah.
So you got to spend more money in the off season.
That's right. Well, remember the guy from Washington? I think we both interviewed him, or I interviewed him about his book. He was the beat reporter, and he wrote a book when Washington won about the season and about the World Series and everything. So. Yeah, I mean, it is. So, as you say, Rich, the business we're in, we can maybe get some of them books on the sly,
Of course. The media magnets that we are here in baseball, obviously. I'm sure we're going to grab some of those books and probably talk to some of those authors. So that's another thing. You get the advantage of interviewing these people that write the books, and they're wonderful people. They're huge walking books of knowledge of baseball, most of them. But I know your prediction of the World Series. I'm going to give you mine. Phillies in 5, and I just happen to have Game 5 tickets.
Oh,
it's going to be a repeat.
You're praying that it's Phillies in 5 too.
Of 08. I believe it's going to be a repeat of 08. I don't think they're going to sweep, But I'll give it to them. Phillies in 5. They win
Okay.
it at home.
All right.
The celebration will begin. The city of brotherly love will go crazy as they are.
Burn half of it. Well, it's going crazy now
They don't. They're not
with
that
the
bad in Philly.
crime.
They in '08 we partied. There was none of that
Yeah.
stuff, burning stuff down. But there was craziness, of course.
I don't
But
get it. I don't get the looting and the burning stuff down when they win. I don't get where's the how are you celebrating? Setting a car on fire. I mean that what did the car do? The car and you're celebrating. I don't get that.
yeah.
Rich, we have
And
another little co-host here. I can't
oh,
get him to come on the camera, but
while you try to do that, let me
my
mention. I
dog
hope
Jackson's been.
Dusty loses his third World Series. Three-time loser. Three-time loser.
I think Houston's gonna try to do it for him, but
Okay.
I'm no
they'll
fan
try.
of Dusty Baker either. To believe
They'll
me,
try. I want to see his toothpick get caught.
I'm not a fan of Dusty Baker, but I think one thing I will say about him, I don't know what he's got. I don't know what he tells these guys, but they play hard for him, and he gets them to the World Series. I mean, it's unbelievable that the playoff record that he has. Yes, he doesn't have the big one, but I mean, he brought the Cubs there. He brought the Giants to the World Series. He brought this is the third time in a row, or third time he's bringing or the second time he's bringing the Astros.
Well, the third time overall for his World Series appearances.
Yeah. So I mean, I gotta give him credit for the job that he does when he goes to a team. I mean, and he's 71 years old, so it's time for him to retire. But if he gets his ring, he may retire. Who knows?
I
But
think
doesn't
he should,
do much.
and he'll retire a loser. And I hope so.
Well, he'll still have that National League pennant ring, which
Yep. And isn't he Barry Bonds a relative of his or something?
I don't know.
Something like that. Yeah.
Well, as we said earlier, and we've been on quite a while, but let's mention Bruce Bochy is back in the managerial ranks. He will take over the reins of the Texas Rangers, and Skip Schumacher, the St. Louis Cardinals bench coach, is now the manager of the Miami Marlins. So a new face in our NL East, Rich. Rob Thompson has signed a contract, I believe. They extended him for next year. I hope they did, at least after the job he's done. And taking that interim label off of him. And of course, Showalter will be back with the Mets, and Davey Martinez is the talk that he may not be back with the Washington. We'll have to see how that, and of course the Braves manager, whose name has escaped me at this moment in time.
Snitker?
Yeah, Snitker, whatever.
Snitker.
He'll be back. So, still a couple openings. The Kansas City Royals job is open. Apparently, Aaron Boone is coming back next year with the Yankees. So, there was speculation he might be gone. So, I think that brings everybody up to date pretty much on all the news. Not a heck of a lot happening other than the World Series, of course. Everything stops at this time, and we'll learn more as after the World Series, guys declare free agency. There's a lot of minor league guys declaring free agency now, but that's all, we're talking about the big guns that do it after the World Series, and guys opt out of contracts, and teams opt out guys as well. So, how the Phillies situation with the free agency after the season? Do they have a lot of standing free agents now?
They don't really have a lot of standing free agents. They're sitting pretty. Um, and another thing the World Series does for you as a team is guys are going to be drawn to that team. I'm
Right.
talking free agents. They want to be with a winner. They can sense when a team has something good. Phillies have something good. I know they only have an 87 win record in the regular season, and I heard one of our local sports talk radio guys, and he does all sports, but the Phillies, Howard Eskin, his name is. He came on one of the Philly sports talk radio stations today, and he said the Phillies were just an average team this year, an average team, quote unquote. And he really didn't give them their just due. In fact, I was so upset with those type of comments, I actually called the radio station and held on for a half hour to talk a couple hours later. And I couldn't get through because there's too many people waiting, and I had to go. But, Howard Eskin doesn't realize that the Phillies were probably 6, 7 games away, 8 games maybe, with a bad bullpen early on in the year, a terrible bullpen that gave up games time after time, of winning 95 games on this season. They're not the team that they look like on the record. They're a better team, and as you said, the bullpen has improved because they have Zach Eflin as the closer for the most part now, and they finally figured it out that they can't just trot these AAA guys out there and expect them to close these ball games out. You need a little bit more, and they got that little bit more in the playoffs so far. Knock on wood, and hopefully it continues during the World Series. Phillies in 5. Mark it down on your calendars. The next time we talk to you, we're going to know the World Series winner, and I think it's going to be the Phillies.
So you're gonna have Zach Eflin standing on the mound with David Robertson. I think Robertson's helped that bullpen a lot too.
Yeah, he's been okay, but he was very shaky down the stretch. Still is shaky. Zach Eflin has been the rock in the playoffs for this team. He's been the stopper. He's been the guy to come out here and, I think they even had Thor the other night relieve for a little bit when Bailey Falter got rocked. It was a shame. Falter had a great season for the Phillies. He won a lot of games for the Phillies. Wasn't a starter, but they made him a starter. Then they wanted to start him for an important game. He had been on the bench for weeks. The Padres just came out and shelled him. And, all of a sudden, his great season, people were booing him and stuff.
Yeah, but, that's tough when you don't pitch for a couple of weeks and then they throw you in there in a big game like that.
It was a shame because he's better than that. He deserved better than that. They should have started Noah Syndergaard in that game. I don't have no clue why they thought an ice cold Bailey Falter could go out there and have anything else happen to him. But what did? They rocked him for 4 runs in the first inning. Didn't even get out of the first inning.
And Syndergaard has playoff experience. I mean, 2015 and 16.
He should have started that game.
He pitched the wild card game in 16 against what's his name, the Giants guy. He lost, but he pitched a magnificent game. He made one bad pitch with a home run, and it was a 2-run homer, and lost the game. I think it was 2-1 or something like that. The Mets lost the wild card game at that point in time, but he pitched brilliantly, and I was shocked that they didn't start him more because of the experience that he does have, So is it Nola pitching for game 1 for the Phillies or Wheeler?
That'll be Nola going for game 1.
Okay.
And Wheeler is going to take game 2. I think you were talking about Madison Bumgarner. Did he?
Yes, Madison. Yeah. Okay, that's the guy.
So, Thor should have started, in my opinion. He earned the start. He actually earned that start. I have no clue. And oddly enough, somebody had told me during the day before the game that they were going to have a bullpen start. Like a couple bullpen guys start the game. I says, that doesn't sound right. You got Noah Syndergaard there. And then when I got to the stadium and on the way to the stadium and I downloaded the press notes, it was Bailey Falter. And I was like, Bailey Falter? We haven't seen him at all. He's never pitched one pitch during any of the National League Division Series or the Championship Series, and now all of a sudden he's starting a Championship Series game? It just doesn't make sense.
Sometimes I guess the manager figures the other team hasn't seen him or hasn't seen him in a while, and they're going to try to throw a surprise out there and hope that it works. I mean, the Mets did the same thing. They brought up Alvarez. The kid was injured in AAA, just came back from being injured, and they brought him up for the Atlanta series to be the designated hitter. And, you can't do that. The kid is 20 years old. You're bringing him up for the biggest series of the year. I mean, and then they say, some people say, "Oh, he didn't hit." Well, he's 20 years old. You bring him up. He's ice cold. He just came off the IL down in the minors. Maybe he played 3 or 4 games in the minors, and you're bringing him back up. You're bringing him up to the majors where he's never been, and you got the biggest series of the year. You're in the middle of the biggest series. Yeah, I got to win one game, and you expect him to turn it around? Come on. No way. So that was a bad call there. But anyway, it should be good. And as you say, probably the next time we see each other, we'll have a winner. Houston in 6. And Dusty Baker gets his ring.
We sweep Dusty Baker and the Houston Astros right out of town. They lose in 5. Rob Thompson, if you're watching the video broadcast, let me put him back up on the screen. There's your manager of the year, ladies and gentlemen. Mark it down on your calendars. I don't even care if the Phillies lose the World Series. He's going to be your manager of the year. He's got to be. There's no other guy that's capable of winning it.
And your MVP for the World Series.
MVP for the World Series. There's some oddball MVPs that come out every now and again. I'm gonna say somebody that probably you don't even know. Bryson Stott, I think, is going to end up the World Series MVP for the Phillies, and he's just
bold pick.
I just think that there's going to be a young guy that nobody's really heard of that much, and I think they're going to contribute the most because to them this is going to be their time to shine almost. Come through. Stott's been coming through for the Phillies so much that I think he's going to have a great series.
Okay, I'm going to say it's Yordan Alvarez is going to be the MVP, or Jose Altuve. I think one or two of those
Can't
guys.
stand the Astros, by the way. Let me say that before we end this podcast. I cannot stand the Astros. I really dislike that team ever since the scandal. They suck. They're friggin' cheaters. They're still cheaters in my book. And they didn't pay enough for that. We're going to make them pay in Philly. Game 3, I'll be there. You cheated, It's going to be terrible, but we're going to do it. It's going to be bad. And you can't hear that on TV, by the way. They drown that out very well.
By the way, I was just looking at our picks for the World Series that we made preseason. You had the Los Angeles Dodgers against the Toronto Blue Jays with the Dodgers winning. I had the Los Angeles Dodgers versus the Tampa Rays with Tampa winning. So we were not even close.
Yeah, we were off there on the World Series, but now we know who's in it. It's going to be a great World Series, I think. I'm pretty sure. And, it is our coverage of the game. Of course, I'm a Phillies fan. You like the Mets. I think you should have came over to the Phillies side because they have a few ex-Mets on it. Now, I've heard some Mets fans say that they're rooting for the Phils because they like Wheeler still. They like Thor. I like them too.
Well, there is that, but there's also a lot of Mets fans that say, I hate the freaking Phillies, and I'm not going to root for them because they're in our division. I don't want them to be the world champions. So, I mean, it depends upon how you look at it. I like Verlander. I like Altuve as a player, and I like that team. I think that team is. I'm impressed that they lost Correa, they lost Springer, and they did not miss a step. And I think they lost some. They lost Cole. I mean, when you look back at some of the free agents that they lost over the last few years, and it didn't even bother them. I think that's amazing, the job that they're doing there, and I wish the Mets could get like that. And so that's why I think Bregman's a real good player, and so I like those. But
You have some studs on the Phillies. Schwarber, he led
yes,
the NL
yes,
in home runs. Though he's been cold in the playoffs, he's due. He's due for the World Series. It could be him as the MVP.
I'm the only guy in New York probably that likes Bryce Harper.
Well, you got Reese Hoskins at first. He had the most home runs during the NLCS. I think he had 5 home runs. He's been on fire. JT Realmuto, he speaks for himself. He had an in-the-park home run. First catcher to ever do it in the postseason. Only catcher to ever do it. Bryce Harper, he speaks for himself.
Yeah.
Nick Castellanos, he needs to shine, and he's capable of it. And Bryson Stott, my pick for the MVP of the 2022 World Series.
All right.
Gene Segura.
We will see how it all shakes out, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Enjoy that World Series, and go Phils!